107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run. They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Yeah, and nor the influence of money. We should do that. Right?
You don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000...
Kamala Harris has just released her new book, and predictably, it's filled with excuses for why her campaign crashed and burned. Naturally, Bill Maher weighed in, and his response was blistering. He argued that 107 days was more than enough time for her to prove herself and secure a victory. But the real bombshell came when Maher pointed out several glaring falsehoods woven into her narrative. His critique is sharp, cutting, and guaranteed to leave a mark.
Violence and the crime, people just getting away with it, cashless bail, whatever. I want to see law and order, and I think that would be helpful.
Well, apropos to that, I'll bring up one last subject. Somebody didn't write this, but I want to say it because it's interesting. Some new polling came out, and this is really, I'm speaking to the Democrats especially here, because Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos, they're down with blacks, they're down 15 points with whites. And when whites say, you're not hip anymore, ooh. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score.
Bill Maher opens by highlighting the latest polls, which show Trump losing ground with voters. But here's the catch. When it comes to issues that actually matter to Americans, the economy, the border, and foreign conflicts, Trump is still firmly in the lead. Maher insists this should be the Democrats' moment to regroup, adjust their strategy, and start delivering real results. Instead, he says, they're too busy bowing to woke politics and chasing culture wars that resonate only within their own echo chamber.
When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid. 2 points on respect for democracy. Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption.
What's striking is that the Democrats aren't even holding ground on the very principle tied to their name. You'd expect them to dominate when it comes to democracy itself, the value they claim to embody. But instead, Republicans are catching up, and in some polls even surpassing them, as the party seen as better representing democratic ideals. That's more than just a warning light. It's a blaring alarm. It shows the Democrats are losing their grip on their core identity, the foundation that once energized their base and set them apart. Rather than reinforcing trust through steady principles, they've sunk into identity politics, virtue signaling, and constant internal bickering. The fallout? Many Americans no longer see them as the natural protectors of democracy. And if this slide continues, the Democrats won't just risk losing elections, they'll be edging toward political irrelevance.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107 Days.
No, you didn't.
I did?
No, you didn't.
I'd like to...
I'll say a lot of lies on this show, but I won't take that. I will not accept that.
I thought you might ask me about it. That's why I had to read it. But the point is, it's like, as you probably know, it's like a diary of what happened. But I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party.
The DNC appears to have no real strategy beyond endlessly attacking Donald Trump, often on the most trivial and irrelevant points. Outside of the constant barrage of criticism, there's no clear vision, no unified message. Nothing that convinces voters the Democrats are ready to lead. That lack of direction becomes even more obvious when you look at Kamala Harris. After losing an election and releasing a book, you'd expect some serious reflection. an honest acknowledgement of mistakes.
By the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
She's rewriting history in the book, too. She's now against men and women's sports. Like, come on. Like, they tried to dismantle Title IX against women when she was vice president.
Right. I mean, that's just one of many examples.
She could have had 701 days and would have still lost that race.
But you're right. The data says it's cost of living, it's inflation, it's immigration, illegal immigration, all those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
Kamala Harris appears to be inching away from the same woke politics that helped derail her career. At first glance, that might seem like progress. Finally, she's showing signs of learning. But there's a catch. Rather than owning up to past mistakes, she's trying to rewrite her own history. She now frames herself as someone who opposes men competing in women's sports, despite the fact that she openly supported it while in office. That kind of revisionism isn't fooling anyone. If Harris truly wants to rebuild credibility, she'll have to take a much harder step. Admit she was wrong, recognize how disconnected she became, and cut ties with the radical woke agenda once and for all. Only then could she begin to regain trust. Without that honesty, her so-called rebrand will be seen for what it really is: political survival in disguise.
Legal immigration, all those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
And by the way,
law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. You don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years?
From the very beginning, Maher goes straight for the jugular in his critique of Kamala Harris's book. To him, it doesn't read like a reflection at all. It's just a long list of excuses. At the heart of her defense is the infamous 107 days, the period she insists was too short to get her message out and connect with voters. In her telling, that compressed timeline sealed her fate before the race even began. Maher isn't buying it. He calls the argument a complete fallacy, stressing that Americans didn't turn away because of the calendar. They turned away because they finally saw her without the protective cover of the vice presidency. When the spotlight hit, voters didn't see someone they could trust or connect with. It wasn't about time. It was about authenticity, likability, and credibility. And Harris came up short on all three.
Stressing that Americans didn't turn away because of the calendar. They turned away because they finally saw her.
Exactly, that's the crux of it. All Kamala Harris really had to do was present a clear plan for tackling the problems Americans face every day. That's it. Offer concrete solutions, paint a vision for the future, and let voters evaluate her on the strength of those ideas. She even had a prime opportunity to break from Joe Biden and show what she would do differently if given the presidency. That could have been her defining moment, to prove independence and leadership. But once again, she delivered nothing. No answers, no roadmap, no bold agenda. It felt as though she expected voters to hand her power without demanding a single plan in return. And that's the heart of the problem. Harris lacks a clear message, a distinct identity, and credible solutions. Without those essentials, no campaign strategy, no matter how well executed, can save her.
I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run. They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Yeah, and nor the influence of money. We should do that.
That's exactly the point Bill Maher zeroes in on, the outright falsehood from Kamala Harris. In her own book, she plainly stated that she didn't pick Pete Buttigieg as her running mate because he was gay. Those were her words, printed in black and white. But when Rachel Maddow pressed her on it, Kamala backpedaled, insisting that's not what she meant, or worse, denying she ever wrote it at all. That kind of contradiction is political quicksand. If she can't stand by her own published words, how can Americans trust her to stand firm on policy or leadership decisions? Maher's takeaway cuts deep. This isn't just about campaign blunders. It's about credibility. And Kamala Harris is bleeding it away with every excuse, every contradiction.
You know, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No, that's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for President of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for President of the United States, and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk.
And that's exactly why Kamala Harris crashed and burned in the 2024 elections. At the core of her failure lies a simple truth. She doesn't stand for anything. She avoids bold stances, shies away from principles, and rarely offers a clear vision. Take her response to Zohran Mamani's candidacy in New York. It's a perfect example. She didn't back him because of his policies or vision. She backed him for one shallow reason. He's a Democrat. That's it. No policy merit, no strategic value, no genuine conviction. And that's the bigger problem. When the Democratic Party rallies around candidates purely out of blind loyalty instead of strong ideas, they bleed credibility. Harris embodies that weakness, and voters sent the message loud and clear in 2024. They're done with it.
This is what she said about New York mayoral hopeful and radical hard leftist Zohran Mamdani.
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure.
Look, if you thought Kamala had acquired some wisdom, some class and perspective in the months since she was resoundingly beaten by President Trump, well, you'd be disappointed. All she revealed overnight is that she's a frightful bigot.
Remember when Kamala Harris was running for president and made it clear she wouldn't change or improve a single thing Joe Biden had done? That was her entire pitch. A blank check of loyalty to Biden, no questions asked. Fast forward to today, and suddenly the tone is very different. Now that she's no longer tied to the vice presidency, Harris is pointing out everything that went wrong under Biden's watch. Rising inflation, immigration failures, foreign policy missteps, you name it. The irony is glaring. These were the very issues she stayed silent on when she actually had the power and responsibility to make a difference. Instead of challenging Biden or speaking hard truths when it mattered, she played it safe. Now, long after the damage has been done, she's trying to find her voice. But for many Americans, it feels like too little, too late. In the end, both her book and her recent public statements only underline why she lost in 2024 and why her political future looks so uncertain. From rewriting history and dodging accountability to hiding behind Biden's shadow and clinging to woke politics, she has yet to present voters with a real vision or authentic leadership. Bill Maher exposed the inconsistencies, and voters had already seen through the excuses. If Harris wants a second chance, spin and party loyalty won't cut it. She'll need brutal honesty, bold